How's everybody doing? My name is Anthony Brian Logan, and today I bring you an interesting video that I saw first on Facebook. I saw a little bit of it, like probably the first 30 seconds. And what I saw, it really kind of sparked my interest because I had seen this be talked about a little bit on social media. A bunch of black folks getting arrested for a bag of weed. And right when I saw the headline, I knew it was just not true. I knew it was BS. And I wanted to look more into it. And from the little bit that I saw, more was revealed than is in the actual headline. What you see on the screen, right on the lower left-hand corner, it says over 60 black people arrested for same bag of weed. And we're going to go ahead and get into the video, and we're going to see exactly what's going on. And I'm going to give you my points at certain parts of the video. I'll stop it and then I'll give my point. So without further ado, let's go ahead and roll it.
We've got new details on a mass arrest that ended a New Year's Eve party after police found a tiny little bit of drugs. And wait till you hear these details. Officers arrived at this party after hearing what was reported as gunfire.
Stop right there. Okay, first of all, I don't go out on New Year's Eve normally. And if I do, I go to a safe place, safe neighborhood, people that I actually know. I'm not going to go to some random person's house. Second of all, gunfire. I mean, you're already starting off bad right there. The headline says bag of weed. So what's up with the guns? Where did the guns come from? Gunfire and reported gunfire. You think people just going to call the police just because they think they might have heard gunfire? I mean, come on. When you hear the gunfire, New Year's Eve party, you got to go because that's usually the precursor to somebody getting killed or seriously injured. But let's keep going.
And they detected the odor of marijuana and observed subjects fleeing the premises, probably because it was being raided by the police.
I mean, it wasn't being raided by the police if when the police pull up to the spot, they start running. Okay. And if you're being raided by the police, like if they're actively raiding the house, I think the worst thing you could do is actually flee the premises. You want to stay right where you at, because if you leave, then it means you got something to hide. Okay. So word of advice, if you ever getting raided by the police, if everybody says, you know, get on the ground right now, don't try to run away because that's the easy way to get shot.
While conducting their investigation, officers noted marijuana in plain view and initially recovered a semi-automatic handgun. Okay,
so you got weed laying around, a gun laying around. There's probably more guns that were in the vicinity. People that probably had the UOPs, the pistols, the blickies, they probably left when they saw them blue and red lights pull up to the premises. Okay, it probably was a gunfight, or, well, not necessarily a gunfight. It probably people that were out there shooting their guns to signify the new year. And a lot of them probably had guns that were illegal, guns that had, you know, crimes committed on them. So of course they're going to flee.
Which contextually is either a right that all Americans have, or if it's a person of a different race, it's cause to arrest dozens and dozens of people. So they reportedly entered the house without the permission of the partygoers, and after less than 1 ounce of marijuana was discovered, 63 attendees were arrested and sent to jail because no one claimed the drugs as theirs. So they had to arrest 63 people.
Hey man, that's when stop snitching goes wrong. Maybe if somebody would have said that's so-and-so's drugs, then only that person would have went to jail. And that would have been actually a fair compromise because look, you got guns, you got a loud party, you got drugs, people were fleeing the premises. They probably had other stuff going on, felony warrants and everything else. So I think a fair compromise would be, all right, if you give up your man that had the actual weed, we'll let you go and it won't even really be a big deal. But they didn't want to do that, so now they face the consequence. What's really the big problem here? I don't see one.
Damn, that's a big party. I've never had a party that big. Everyone at the house is arrested for possession of the marijuana, which police say was in everyone's reach or control. Although to be fair, it was 1 ounce. So I'm sure some of those 63 people were out of arm's reach of it. And according to jail records, the 63 individuals who were arrested on Saturday night were processed by Monday night. That's quite a gap there.
Oh my God.
All were charged with a single count of marijuana possession, although that's literally impossible for them to have all possessed it. It would have to be.
Okay, before they continue, the whole thing about Saturday night and then Monday night, that's normal because you got the holiday weekend. everybody knows that. You know, when you're talking about parties, black parties especially, everybody knows the drill when you're talking about jail. If you go to jail on the weekend, if it's a holiday weekend, you won't get out probably till that next Tuesday morning. Like, let's say, for example, you having a party on Saturday night. Okay, the weekend they're not going to process you, so you're going to be sitting in there on the weekend. And then Monday, that's also a federal holiday, so you're not going to be processed that day either. Maybe you get processed. Luckily, they got processed that night. So maybe they were released that night or Tuesday morning. Everybody knows that's how it is. So let's not be all surprised and shocked. Everybody knows that.
Be like 1 grain at that point. The individuals arrested were predominantly black males, aged 19 to 25. You will be shocked to find out. And Channel 2 reports some have lost their jobs as a result of spending multiple days in jail.
That's what happens.
Because of course. Now you should understand that this was in Georgia. It was in Cartersville, Georgia. Now in Athens, Georgia, black individuals are 4.7 times more likely to be charged with a marijuana violation than white individuals. The same discrepancy exists on the national level as well.
I mean, here's a question, because I have a feeling here that they're going to go through the tried and not true method, but the constant retort from liberals that say, well, the drug usage is the same on both sides. The drug usage is irrelevant when you're talking about who's getting found with it, because just because you are using drugs does not mean you're selling drugs. White folks probably would get, like in a place like Athens, they probably get their drugs from a black person. Black people are going to be selling it more than most people. And if they're not going to be selling it more than most people, they're going to sell it in a reckless way. They're going to be using their own personal cell phone. They're not going to do things in a smart way when you're talking about being a dope boy. Okay, the Mexicans and people like that, they under the radar. You don't know who they are. They all have the same name, Jose Martinez or something like that. So they're not going to be as conspicuous as the average black dope boy is. Call it racist, call it whatever you want. It's just the reality of it. I know these guys. I know 20 black males in jail, 20 black males in jail, many of them on drugs. I know how they operate.
So I wonder if perhaps that had something to do with what happened in Cartersville.
So I had an interesting experience reading this story, John, because in the beginning, they don't talk about what the race is. So as I'm reading the story, I'm like, man, it's Georgia, so they're more conservative there. I didn't even think about race. I'm just thinking about the war on drugs and how stupid it is. My God, they're arresting 63 people for 1 ounce of marijuana.
Well, of course, that's not the reason why. That's not the only reason why. I mean, why? Like, this headline is false. The Chunk, whatever his name is, he's not telling the truth. I mean, you had gunfire first. First, you had a loud party. That's a violation right there, because I'm pretty sure they have noise ordinances. You can't be breaking that. Second of all, you had the gunfire. Third, you had the drugs. Fourth, you had the actual pistol recovered, which was probably illegal, you know? So you got 4 violations right there. And I wonder how many of those people that were there, 19 to 25-year-old black males, had any kind of felony warrants, misdemeanor warrants, any kind of child support, stuff like that on their record. Okay, so let's not just say, oh, they all got arrested for the bag of weed. I mean, let's just put things in proper context here.
Then I read they were threatened with tasers. Okay, I'm like, all right, partygoers more likely to be black as we keep going in the story.
Mm-hmm.
But why did they get threatened with tasers? What prompted that situation? Because if you go into a place, they say, everybody get down, hands on your head, and everybody complies, why would they need to bring out the tasers?
Then they were locked up in cages.
Or tied with zip ties.
Okay, zip ties, I get they were arrested. They put them in cages. Then they're kept in jail for all that time. There's no way they're white. No. Okay. They're going to lawyer up. People are going to come. Is there going to be worried? 63 people at a party, at a white party. Somebody's going to be powerful. We got to get them out of here, right? Yeah.
I mean, the thing about it is, when you have 63 white folks at a party and you're going to recover a pistol, some weed. I mean, come on, be for real. And then the reality is, if that was the case, if they had a pistol, they had the weed at the party, do you think that nobody would say, "Oh, this is mine"? I mean, just being responsible. Just have the person with the least amount to lose and say, "Hey, that's my weed," and everybody goes home. They were offered that chance, and it was probably a bargain because, like I said, some of those guys probably had felony warrants and everything else, but they decided to not do that. No snitching. So, okay, everybody's getting locked up, and you staying in jail until the new year is over.
Lock them up, let alone keep them in jail for all that time, have some of them lose jobs, etc. And then I saw this quote. they told me I was unfit person to have a baby.
What?
Like, all right. And I was going to ask you, because I didn't think it was going to be in the story, hey, can you look up if they're white or black? And if they're white, I'll come on there and be like, hey, I thought they were going to be black, but it turns out they're white. And then you read later in the story, of course they're black. Of course.
Of course.
So you think they go into a white party and arrest 63 people and put them into cages over an ounce of marijuana? You know why they went in the first place? They're worried about
noise.
Gunshots. They find out it's fireworks. White people are having a party with fireworks. There's 1 ounce of marijuana, and they arrest them all.
Come on, man. Like, you know, I've been, we have all been around the block. We know what New Year's celebrations are like. You know, when you hear fireworks, okay, you hear the little and all that kind of stuff. But you hear gunshots, you hear pop, pop, pop. Okay, you know when it's some gunshots being mixed into the fireworks, okay? But the biggest problem was probably 63 people at a party, and I wonder, was it at a house or an apartment? Remember, it was a video that went viral of a bunch of folks, a bunch of black folks in a upstairs, I think it was a 3rd floor apartment, having a party, jumping up and down on the actual floor, and then the floor caves in. I mean, you got water pipes everywhere. It was a mess. Luckily, the people that were downstairs, their downstairs neighbors, had left. And what did they do? They were going to report the party to the police. And of course, they were white. Do you think those people that went to the police will have a party like they did? So we gotta, it's some cultural things we gotta even out. So Chink, or I can't pronounce his name. I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing his name wrong. It's whatever. But he doesn't understand that cultural differences that he's pointing out, or differences in how people are treated, are not just because of their skin color. It's because you got some behavioral issues that exist in certain segments of the population. Hashtag not all. So don't nobody get triggered to say all black folks just behave a certain way. You could just find general things in races, loud parties and stuff like that. This is one.
No way, no way, no way. I know we're crazy on the war on drugs, right? And it's like anything is possible now, right? And cops are shooting moms in yoga pants. And so, but it doesn't look, it's an unbelievable anecdote. But if you say, hey, it's just an anecdote, John just gave you the numbers. In a similar town in Georgia, 4.7 times more likely to get arrested if you're black. The national average.
Irrelevant to the story.
Is a little lower, to be fair. You're 3.7 times more likely to be arrested, even though you're just as likely to smoke marijuana if you're white or black.
Didn't I call this earlier? Like I said, I've not seen this part. All I've seen is like the first 30 seconds before I started recording this right now. Didn't I say they were going to use the whole drug usage thing and then try to compare that to people to getting arrested with the actual drugs? It ain't the same thing. Just because someone uses drugs does not mean that they're going to also sell it. And using and selling is two different things. And then also, where are the numbers coming from as it relates to who's using it? Okay. I've said this in previous videos about the book cooking and some of the false numbers being put out there. Okay. And then how are you going to actually, like I said, how are you going to actually get the numbers? What you going to cost money on the phone and say, hey, do you use drugs? Do you smoke weed? Do you shoot heroin? Do you smoke methamphetamines? Are you going to get an honest answer? But I digress.
So are they targeting black people in mass throughout the country? And it doesn't have to be purposeful. The cops there don't have to go with the mindset of, I hate all black people. If they're black in there, I'm going to arrest everyone. They don't have to think that. That's not what we're saying. But there are assumptions that they make. There's stereotypes in the back of their heads, which leads to black people being arrested 4 times the rate of white people for the same harmless offense of smoking marijuana.
Okay, but here's the thing. This is what I want you to do. When you say they're getting arrested 4 times as likely for the same offense, you got to, like, show me cases of people that have had their parties interrupted by the police and then show the results. You can't say, oh, it's the same thing. Like, you're making up a straw man in a certain kind of way, in a backdoor kind of way. You're behaving as if there's been an example of this many white folks doing the exact same thing at a party. You talking about drugs, guns, loud party, this, that, and the third. Nobody tells on the person who has the weed. you got to compare apples to apples, not apples to an imaginary straw man.
Or in this case, not smoking it.
I mean, I don't know how many cops they had there, but how did one not just like look around as they're carting out dozen after dozen after dozen of people, just think, what the hell are we doing? We got in this supposedly because of something having to do with justice. And you have to go pretty far astray to end up with this sort of situation. And yeah, I mean, the racial component, like, so as you point out, like I like to be very upfront about the things I don't have enough experience to talk about.
Okay, is this one of them? Because if it is, then maybe you should just bow out and just end the video right here.
But I will say that in this case, I have literally decades of experience of being white. And there has never been a party of 63 white people between 19 and 25 that didn't have an ounce of marijuana, okay? You can break up every party I've ever been to if you want to and cart them all off. You could take their...
Okay, but here's the thing. Did the police come to the party? Was there a pistol at the party? Let's compare apples to apples.
Weed, you can take their Dave Matthews CDs, you can do it all. But they don't, obviously, because of the racial component to all of this.
Okay, and last thing, guys, look, there's 3 layers to this story. There's the outrageous war on drugs, is so monumentally stupid. There's the racial angle, which we discussed. But there's an argument to be made. The most important angle is the class angle.
Yeah.
Because,
I mean, what does class got to do with it? I want to hear his actual explanation here, because I hear that a lot. They say, oh, it's a class, it's a race thing, it's a poverty thing, it's a money thing. What does that have to do with anything? The class of the people that's there, that is smoking weed, I'm sure they were drinking too. I don't even talk about it drinking. That's a whole different story. You know, obviously alcohol is legal, but when you drinking, that puts you in a whole different state of mind. How about when the police pull up, people are running away? So it was more at the actual party than those that were actually captured. Okay, I'm sure that a lot of them that ran away got away, and those that ran away, what did they have on them? Did they have drugs, other drugs? Did they have guns? Did a lot of the stuff get flushed down the toilet before the police came? We're not getting the full story from the Young Turks. They're being dishonest, which is not a big surprise to me, but I digress.
like, it is conceivable. The only way that it's conceivable is it's 63 white guys in a holler in the middle of West Virginia, right? And they don't give a damn about you.
Also, it'd be meth.
Right.
Wait a minute. I'm getting a little offended here. I'm getting triggered because I am from West Virginia. I know about the hollers. You don't know about no hollers chain. Where you from? LA or Turkey? I don't know where you from, but you're not from West Virginia. That's my home. So I know about that. See, the thing about West Virginia is totally different than these urban inner city places. You don't have the level of violence. The violence does not, we're talking about guns and stuff like that. Ain't nobody just going to be shooting indiscriminately. That's just not what it is. The methamphetamine, stuff like that, a lot of those drugs come from the inner city, places like Detroit. And who's going to be the ones bringing the drugs there? I know who does it because I've been up there and seen the local news reports. I know people that have been affected by the drugs. So let's not even go down that road. Just like your man said, if it's something that you don't really know about, you probably should remain quiet. But I digress.
It might be a different drug, but it's okay. They don't care about you. But you know in your heart of heart, it doesn't matter. You all know it doesn't matter if you're a right winger or left winger. There's no way they're arresting 63 people in a party in Beverly Hills over an ounce of marijuana. It is not a thing that happens in this country. It will never happen in this country. There's no way they're arresting 63 people at Princeton. There's no way they're arresting 63 people on Wall Street. It's just not going to happen over.
Okay, but what else is not going to happen? Like, again, I'm beating a dead horse because you're beating a dead horse. So we just got to keep beating this dead horse till it's just obliterated from the earth. Who's going to bring the pistol to the party? If you pull up to a Wall Street party, are you going to have the executives in their sport coats and their shoes and their briefcases and their glasses running away like track stars, hurtling over their gated communities, jumping in the water? Is that going to happen? Let's look at the whole situation. You can't just say, oh, if it's in this one place, then this look at the whole situation as a total thing. Don't look at it just pulling it from just the abstract and looking at it that way. That's not how you go about comparing certain situations.
For an ounce of marijuana. But if you're poor, they don't care about you. They just look at you as something they have to process, not as actual human beings.
I think they would not arrest a party of 63 people in Beverly Hills if they had an ounce of weapons-grade plutonium.
If you like
weapons-grade plutonium, Okie dokie. That's the end of that video right there. Really, really silly. I'm not surprised at all that this is their reaction. The Young Turks, they are being dishonest and not telling you the full story. It has a pretty actually good like to dislike ratio. I'm surprised it doesn't have more dislikes than this. I think the reason is because a lot of people on both sides of the aisle, Democrat, Republican, conservative, liberal, libertarian, they're against the so-called war on drugs. And they think that this video is going to support their actual thing. But a lot of these people don't really understand what's going on here. It's not even about the weed. It's about like 100 people at a party shooting off guns. It's a dangerous environment. And in a neighborhood, I'm not quite sure what kind of neighborhood it is. I was seeing some of the comments on the Facebook thread, and then the person was like, I'm not surprised in this town that they got arrested because it probably was a quiet town where you don't have loud parties. Imagine this. You work your whole life, sacrifice, you save, you do everything that's right to get a house in a nice gated community. And all of a sudden, you got 100 people coming in there, loud music, drinking, smoking weed, shooting guns, all kind of stuff. You have people poking around in your car. I know how these kind of parties operate. You got black leaders, and shout out to y'all. You know who you are back home in Virginia. Black leaders who are definitely down for the cause. They say that a lot of these parties should be outlawed. Back home, we call stuff like this selling parties. And if you're from the 757, you know what I'm talking about, where somebody would go get stuff from the store and then they cook it in their house. They might sell drinks and all that kind of stuff like that. They're usually in the hood. These parties often end up as death traps. And how does it start? It starts with loud music, weed smoke, and then all of a sudden you got rival people that don't like each other from the hood. They coming in there, gunshots ring out, somebody end up dead, maybe a little boy that's sleeping in the next door because it might be in an apartment or a townhouse, some kind of joined complex, or the person may be having a selling party in their home with their kids. Somebody ends up dead, and then they're crying on the news the next day. My boy didn't do nothing. He was the best, is that, and the third, and then the beat goes on. At a certain point, we understand the pattern that exists here, and we're trying to prevent it. And the people of this community where this party was at were probably trying to prevent that pattern from beginning in their community. Because like I said, you work your whole life, you save, you sacrifice to get a nice gated community away from all that nonsense. And here comes the nonsense straight to your community right on New Year's Eve. You may be in there with your kids. You may be watching the ball drop and you hearing this constant noise and then gunshots from a house that's like 2 doors down. You're not going to call the police? And if police get there, people are running away. You got a gun. You got weed. You got people are drunk, acting the fool, urinating on the outside of the premises. And then they come in there and say, okay, some of you guys might have warrants. Some of you guys might have child support. Some of you guys might not be able to pass a drug test. Some of you guys might be on other drugs, might be high methamphetamine, crack, heroin, whatever. What we're going to do, we're going to give you olive blanche. You're going to just tell me who had the weed, and then you guys can go home. Then nobody says it. Okay, olive branch, retracted, all y'all going to jail, and you won't come out till Tuesday. That was probably the threat. It's like, okay, tell me who had the weed, or everybody's going to get locked up and not come home till Tuesday. They picked the second choice. So you can't make this a racial issue to say that they were discriminated against because they were black. Make it an issue of people making bad decisions, bad choices, and disturbing a neighborhood and or town's peace. Very simple. So what do you think? Do you think this was an example of the war on drugs gone wrong? Is it an example of why weed should be legal? Are you against Jeff Sessions and what he has been alleged to do in the coming days, trying to reverse certain laws and make states' rights as it relates to weed less effective? If you think that way, then explain the pistol. Explain people running away. Why would you be running away? If all you got is like less than an O of weed, and I place an ounce of weed on the screen before you, that's actually not a little bit, but I digress. If all it was a little bit of weed, then why was anybody running away? What's up with the gun that they recovered? Why was it a gun there? Okay. But do you think that I'm right with my assertion about these people making a big ruckus, a big brouhaha, disturbing the peace of the town, creating a dangerous environment. And before I close, I'm gonna say this. You need to nip things like this in the bud, because once you don't do that, then it becomes a pattern. If they go there, they got their weed, pit bulls, alcohol, whatever, their pistol, and they could just cut up, act a fool. They're going to keep coming back and coming back and coming back and coming back. This right here set an example. You're not going to come here to our quiet and peaceful place and behave like you're in a ghetto. But whatever your comments are, please let me know in the comments below. And that's all I got to say for this video. If you like what you heard, please comment, rate, share, and subscribe. Peace.